Serge Tonkin, thank you for giving us the time.
Thank you. Thanks, Salpi. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you. We only live 30 miles apart, but we're doing this on Skype. Are you in your studio? Is that what those neat things behind you are?
That's what those, ugly things. Thanks for calling them neat, but that's what they are, yeah.
No, that's good. So, considering you are as busy as you are, thanks for the time. But you've just been to Armenia and back. And so I've got to ask you the general obvious question. How did it feel this time around? And then we'll talk about specifics.
It felt really good. I went back with the family this time around and stayed for 3-4 weeks. Before that, I was there at the tail end of the revolution for about a week, which was extremely exciting. This trip was also exciting because it's the aftermath of the revolution and, how everything kind of gets in line and what everyone's working on. It was exciting to see the change in perspective, both in terms of the ministries and what all the different ministers are working on, as well as the people's attitude. And it was funny because while we were there was World Cup happening in Russia, obviously. And the joke in Armenia was on one screen, there would be the World Cup, and on the other screen, there would be the arrests happening of corrupt officials, past officials, etc. People couldn't decide which is more exciting to watch on the large screens. And I think it's incredible. What's happening in Armenia, what's still happening in Armenia is incredible because there has not been this much attention paid to the woes and concerns and the needs of the people until now. It's like an incredible thing. I follow Armenian news on a daily basis on YouTube or wherever I can get it and see exactly what's going on. And all of the, changes that were promised during the revolution are already occurring. And that's without snap parliamentary elections. That's with just executive branch decisions and, ministries working hard. And the perspective has changed. This is a new country. This is a country that's more progressive than the United States of America right now. That's what we need to realize. America has become politically semi-regressive, if I may. And, and Armenia is incredibly progressive right now. So this is the time that we all need to jump in and do our thing, whether it's, spending a month there and doing a small project, spending 3 months there, doing a bigger project, living there. Like, this is the time that our country needs us.
Okay, that's a perfect segue into the obvious Armenia diaspora questions, but let me break them down. I'm going to formulate it this way, and you tell me if you agree, that when we talk about Armenia diaspora engagement, diaspora Armenia engagement, really we're talking about 3 levels. There are the traditional institutions, most of them Ottoman era, large, fairly respected, huge legacies that need to do something, perhaps, to keep up with the times. The second level are what I want to call these new boutique organizations that are not institutions yet, but that are usually the vision of one person. And many of them have now become rather large and bring value to this engagement. And then there are the individuals who want to do something. So if you agree with that division, let's take it one by one. You just referred to the last one a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What about the first one, the traditional institutions?
The traditional diaspora and institutions themselves need a revolutionary change of perspective. That's the way I would put it, because, going to Armenia, coming back every time, I feel like, we've in the past, we've talked about the disconnect between diaspora and Armenia before, that there's this huge disconnect, that people have great intentions and they work toward them in the diaspora for Armenia without really knowing the nuts and bolts of how their engagement is being affected, where the money's going and all this stuff.
Sometimes the road to hell.
Yeah.
Right? The good intentions.
Look, what I think is that our disconnect has been a collusive effort in the corruption of Armenia. So we need to realize that our disconnect has been partially responsible for some of the stuff that's occurred in the past. Our inability to speak truth to power, even from organizations, traditional organizations that held a lot of sway, that held a lot of financial power, etc., with the previous administrations. So I think we should first recognize our weaknesses, recognize our mistakes as a diasporan community, as the legitimate organizations, which, for the record, only comprise 4% of the Armenian diaspora in terms of membership, and move on and make that progressive change and perspective. I see it happening already. There's a lot of changes. Some without getting into specifics, obviously, there's also some hurdles that need to be overcome. Some changes aren't happening as quick as everyone would like, but I'm here to, as an artist that has always spoken clearly and truthfully, I'm here to remind the Armenian diaspora and organizations that we all were responsible for this mess, and we all need to help. And we need that change in perspective. We need to jump in and be part of the new Armenia in the right way. Now, in terms of the second tier that you mentioned, there are organizations I'm aware of, but I'm sure there are organizations that I also am not aware of that are, set up by single personalities that are trying to bring in positive change and do their work, whether it's philanthropic, business, or otherwise. I think that's always going to be the case. The right attitude of engagement obviously is key here for them. But most importantly for me are not single individuals, but the whole Armenian nation as a race. And I think I'm working on efforts with a few friends to put together some type of digital kind of domain, pan-Armenian domain, to be able to connect everyone. Because I think, there's no reason why I should know more about my local community than about what's going on in Armenia. I mean, yes, I should know more about my local community, but we at this point, of communication, free information, flow of information, all of that, we need to be better connected. And I've always seen that as the impasse, as the impediment between diaspora and Armenia. And now the new Armenia, the new government, the new institutions are looking at the diaspora and saying, we no longer want your money. We want you. We want your professionalism. We want your presence. We want you to stand behind us. We want you to be part of this nation as much as you physically and possibly could. Sure, money helps. Sure, finances and investment, they want it, of course. But that's not what they're focusing on. We are no longer a nation trying to break out of the chains of some type of oligarchic system and need finances to help democratize our nation. We're a real democracy now. What we need is investment. We need proper business investments. I'm excited to hear that tourism levels have gone up. Economic growth factor have increased on a monthly basis since the revolution. And I'm looking forward to seeing some change in Moody's and some of the other economic indicators in terms of ratings of the country to allow more foreign investment to come in. And I'm not just referring to, obviously, diaspora and Armenian investment. That's probably the first easiest wave, but, just investment in general. But I think it's necessary as a diasporan community to look at Armenia in a different way at this point.
I wanna. You keep opening these doors for the next question perfectly. So I asked the SivilNet staff. I said, I'm going to talk to Serge. What question do you want me to ask? And one of them said, the lyrics of your song, Uneducated Democracy. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, it was written a few years ago. But, in dire need of reason, in a truly deaf nation, you tell us. Give me the lyrics and tell me what this means for Armenia.
First of all, give me the lyrics means I have to Google my own lyrics.
Oh, no. Here. Without an education, there is no real democracy. Without an education, there's only hypocrisy.
Right. I think I wrote that not necessarily talking about Armenia, actually, because Armenia has a higher literacy rate than the United States of America. I wrote it more about the U.S. but it could be applied to many nations, obviously.
And education can mean many things, right? Just beyond literacy. Education
doesn't necessarily have to mean, scholastic nor literacy. It could also mean cultural education, which actually is more important because, I consider, I know a lot of educated people that make horrific political decisions, and Armenians too. And it really makes me think twice about what education means. I think it's a cultural education. About the revolution, I've been saying that for any nation to have a peaceful revolution, it's it has to have a kind of cultural evolution.
Evolution.
I think evolution. Yeah. All of the protests that have happened over the years, the learning of the process, the line of where not to pass, all of these things were incredible lessons for the revolution. The revolution wouldn't have succeeded without the previous protests, the previous mini revolts or
Exactly.
protests that had occurred with many different faces, with many different organizations involved. So I think we have to give that credence. One of the things I'm doing is working with Garin Hovanesyan and Alec Muhibian, and we're doing a film about the revolution called I Am Not Alone, which I'm really excited about because I really feel like we're at a time in the world of, very divisive times. And I'm not just talking about the United States of America, I'm talking about the world. Huge drift toward right-wing extremism, caused by immigration and all of this stuff, which itself is caused by war, which itself is caused by resource acquisition. So all this domino effect is creating this really hellhole of a world, not to mention pollution and ecological
And everything you've said affects Armenia. You haven't said anything that doesn't also relate to Armenia.
That's correct. But while all of this is occurring, we have this bright hope of change that's in Armenia. That's an example for the world that I'm dying to show and preview. So that's where the film comes in. But anyway, I got sidetracked. What were we talking about?
No, we were doing fine. We were talking about how the education, cultural education, civic education, I would add, is a piece of making this democracy that we're all excited about real, especially given everything that is facing this government. There's 30 years to undo here.
It's a monumental task to be able to undo some of the imbalances of the past while creating a roadmap for like an egalitarian society for once and for all, and pursuing that in a quick timetable, quick enough for people not to be complacent about the changes and the revolution. It's a monumental task, but I really, really am encouraged because I think they're doing a fantastic job. And there's all this excitement about the country. I mean, you saw Merkel go to Armenia and take selfies on the street with people and Nigol and whatnot. And it's like, where do you see Merkel doing that? Not in Azerbaijan.
No, it was very uplifting. So the next time we talk to you with all of your projects going, are we going to talk about Surge with Serge? Was that too cute? Was that?
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to talk about Surge with Serge. I've got a coffee brand called Kavat Coffee, Kavat. That I'm launching along with Groundworks Coffee out of Venice, California, a well-established fair trade organic brand. And we're going to be basically we have two products: Armenian coffee, which I'm extremely I should say modern Armenian coffee because it's not the typical Armenian coffee, but nonetheless, it's fair trade organic, modern Armenian coffee, Ethiopian sourced. And we also have an espresso blend that we're going to put out soon thereafter, after our first thing. But for me, it was a way of introducing Armenian coffee to non-Armenians in the diaspora and just going, here, check out this custom, check out this tradition, check out this taste, the cup reading. We're having fun with it. We're making funny videos for viral content, etc. And, just really enjoying kind of doing that. And there's incredible response that we're getting from around the world, just from small postings saying that I'm really interested in this work and I get it, etc. So,
good.
Yeah.
It's great to have a conversation that's positive about both the individual Armenian I'm talking to right here and the nation and hopefully the future, the immediate future.
Sounds like you've had a lot of negative conversations.
The thing with SivilNet is you respond to crises, and so we're responding to crises. And as you know, we've had a few over the last couple of decades. But it's really wonderful in this environment. But the challenge is on us, on all of us, to try to explain and parse the steps to come so that we don't lose hope and so we have real input instead of just applause and rah, rah, rah. So SivilNet's doing its bit, and thank you very much for helping us do it.
Of course. Well, SivilNet's done an amazing job at streaming the revolution and translating it at the same time into English. And I mean, it's incredible. Like, the revolution will be televised, right? Like this
exactly.
And I think that, SivilNet has a lot to, we have a lot to be thankful for SivilNet for being able to show all of that actually the whole time. And it will be in the film as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I think it's very exciting times. There's a lot of things that can be done, whether it's business-wise in Armenia or philanthropic, knowing that there are less impediments, there's transparency, there's the ability to actually affect positive change in a meaningful manner without worrying about the negative previous consequences that existed. I think that's an incredible thing. So I see people going and doing good work already, which is great. And, I motivate, I'm meeting with people I've never met before without any official inclusive title or anything, and, financial institutions and people, and going, your emerging markets people should really look into Armenia, especially the tech sector. Not even knowing, I'm not even that kind of business person, but I'm going, there's, you can make money there, and it's an amazing time for Armenia. I think we should be encouraging people to look at Armenia in a very serious manner economically right now.
The diaspora at work.
The diaspora at work, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Serge Tankian, for doing all of the many things that you do and sharing them with the rest of us.
Well, that sounds like what you guys do, so thank you. Thank you, Salpi.
Thank you. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, John. Merci.
Thank you for following us on SivilNet.